I've completed a total of 11 solo challenges in Pokemon Platinum. Because I'm still learning this game, I want to do playthroughs with a variety of types, and I still haven't played with Poison, Rock, Ice, Dark, or Bug types. So today, let's take care of the last of these and see how Vespiquen does in a solo challenge. If you're new to my content, the rules for the playthrough can be found in the description. The early game bugs in Pokemon Platinum are Burmy and Kricketot, with Combee being available a little bit later into the game once you get access to honey trees. Now, no video on this thing would be complete without bemoaning the fact that you have to use the honey trees to catch Combee, and because of its gender ratio, it is so rare for a female one to show up. By the way, this is the only way it can evolve. It's like Salazzle. In my playthroughs, I always allow myself to manipulate my starter, so I'm going to have the correct gender as well as perfect IVs, but for this introductory series, I'm only running hardy natures, and I'm not using hidden power. Okay, so I said that Combee wasn't a regional bug, and that is technically true, but it feels sort of like a mashup between the first and second stage of one of those lines. It's like you put Caterpie and Metapod together. In terms of stats, it is honestly terrible. 30 HP, attack, and special attack, 42 defense and special defense, and 70 speed. It's a fast defensive Pokemon with really bad attacks. And I find that truly ironic because its typing, Bug Flying, is really bad defensively. It's weak to Flying, Rock, Fire, Electric, and Ice moves. It only resists Fighting, Bug, and Grass, which are not fantastic types, and it is immune to ground, but most ground Pokemon also have rock type coverage, and those moves deal 4 times damage. Luckily for me, Combee has a medium slow growth rate, which is honestly fantastic. This means it levels up quite quickly in the early game, and that's going to get me to 21 so that I evolve into Vespiquen fairly early on. And that is a really important factor here because Combee's stats are bad, but its ability is even worse. It's Honey Gather, which means it just collects honey, absolutely useless for a solo challenge, and its move pool is incredibly limited. This is why it feels like Caterpie or Metapod. It starts with 2 moves, Sweet Scent and Gust, analogous to String Shot and Tackle, and then through level up it does learn one more move, kind of like Harden, but in this case it's an attacking move, Bug Bite. If you're watching my video, you're probably a fan of the early generation Pokemon games, so you might not know what Bug Bite does. It's just a bug move that has base 60 power, which is pretty good after the same type attack bonus. It'll have an effective power of 90, and its secondary effect is pretty cool. It causes the user to eat the opponent's held berry if they have one. And honestly, I'm looking forward to stealing some berries in this run. Beyond that, it learns nothing else through level up. It learns 0 TM and HM moves, but it does get access to some moves through Move Tutor: Air Cutter, Bug Bite, Endeavor, Mud Slap, Ominous Wind, Snore, String Shot, Swift, and Tailwind. All these moves come way too late in the playthrough, so I'm not going to be learning any of them before I evolve. Because of Combee's very low stats, I took my time around Jubilife City defeating a bunch of trainers to level up as much as possible. I also skipped the Quick Claw because Combee is very fast, and this ends up being a mistake because when it evolves, it gets much slower. This is a fun reference to the fact that bees are very quick, but queen bees are not. They're actually quite slow and defenseless. At least that's what I have learned from all the TikToks that my wife shows me. Honestly, I would suggest watching these videos if you want to see humans with true courage, because these people are just like putting their unguarded hands into beehives and like grabbing the queen bee and walking around with it. I don't know, I think I would get stung like 500 times if I did that. Okay, so Barry's next. He's honestly really simple for Combee to take out because I've over-leveled to this point and I already have Bug Bite. It's not useful against the Starly because the flying type resists the bug type, but I can use it against his Chimchar. While editing, Sean caught the fact that I don't actually use it against the Chimchar. Instead, I just use Gust, which does get the job done. On the remainder of Route 3, I'm going to fight all of the trainers because I need as much experience as possible. My goal is to get to level 21 and evolve before I face Rourke. While I do this training, I just want to talk about the fact that Combee and Vespiquen are both balanced attackers, meaning they can take advantage of both special and physical attacks. Right now I have a special move in the form of Gust and a physical move in the form of Bug Bite, which by the way is not resisted by ground or rock type Pokemon, so at least I have neutral damage against all of Rourke's Pokemon. After passing through Orberg Gate and completing Orberg Mine, I go north of the city to do some training. With a rock type gym leader being first, I think a lot of Pokemon are going to have to do their grinding here, and while doing this training today, I started to have the thought that I might encounter a second shiny Machop at some point. Up until now, I have played the game with every shiny Pokemon that I've obtained in these solo challenges. It's just 2, a shiny Poochyena and a shiny Machop, but I don't know what I would do if I found a repeat shiny. Let me know what you think in the comments. I fight both of the trainers in the gym, meaning I have fought every single battleable NPC up until this point, and then I top off Combee's experience with a few more wild encounters, bringing me up to level 21. Here it evolves into Vespiquen. For its base stats, almost everything improves: 70 HP, 80 attack and special attack, 102 defense and special defense, but only 40 speed, so it lost a total of 30 points there. But the evolution is obviously worth it. Its ability changes to something useful, Pressure. This is particularly good on a Pokemon that is defensive, and now its move pool has greatly expanded. Through level up, I missed a bunch of useful moves like Fury Cutter, Defend Order, and Pursuit, which are all learned at levels before Vespiquen evolves. I'll have access to these later on through the move reminder. At level 21, it learns Power Gem, so I do get this move, and honestly, I really like having this special rock type move. It's going to come in quite useful throughout this entire run. Beyond that, through level up, it gets Heal Order, which is essentially bug type recover, Toxic Slash, Captivate, which sharply lowers special attack, Attack Order, which is a 90 base power bug type move with a no secondary effect, Swagger, and then finally Destiny Bond, which is a little bit weird, but I kind of get it on a defensive Pokemon. Maybe you would want to use this move right at the end before you faint. Through TM and HM, it gets some moves like Sludge Bomb, Aerial Ace, Silver Wind, and X Scissor. Also, do note here that Whirlpool is showing up on my set. That's just a mistake. This should be Defog instead. Vespiquen also learns some moves through Tutor, but today I'm not going to be utilizing any of them, so with my newly improved Pokemon, let's now take on Rourke. His first Pokemon is Geodude. Of course, here it makes most sense to go for Bug Bite. It just sets up Stealth Rock, and then I knock it out after he uses a potion. Okay, that was easy. Next is Onix. Vespiquen does more than half to it, so I'm going to take it out in only 2 turns. I was a little bit scared because it knows Rock Throw, but it does so little damage because, number 1, Onix is trash, and number 2, Vespiquen is very defensive. After the Onix faints, he sends in his ace, Cranidos, but it can't do much damage, and I'm doing a lot to it. So that is an easy first gym. No resets so far. Also, I do want to note here that it didn't take me as much time as I thought it would, and that's largely due to the fact that Vespiquen has a medium slow growth rate. I always say it, but I really do think this is the best growth rate for solo challenges, unless your Pokemon is perfectly configured to run an erratic growth rate or a fluctuating growth rate. Those two are much more contextual. Before taking on the Team Galactic members in Jubilife City, I reorder my moves, which by the way cannot be done in battle. It always confuses me why they removed this in Generation 4, like it was a good feature, why did you take it out? I don't get it. In Floroma Meadow, I'm going to show you this battle footage against the Galactic members because I want to comment on Vespiquen's back sprite. I think this one is pretty perfect. It makes it look 3D and very intimidating. 10 out of 10. Because of the medium slow growth rate, I'm level 23 by the time I make it to the Valley Windworks and face Commander Mars. Power Gem can easily manage her Zubat, and then against the Purugly, I can use Bug Bite. This is the first time when the secondary effect activates, allowing Vespiquen to eat the Oranberry, and I get the 2-hit range because this move is very powerful. With Commander Mars out of the way, I head north of the city, skipping as many trainers as possible because I don't think Gardenia is going to be a threat. And I was thinking that by the time I reach Fantina, I'm going to have access to Heal Order, so she shouldn't be a problem. Inside the forest, once teaming up with Cheryl, I fight these 2 trainers. By the way, this Pachirisu is really annoying if it paralyzes you. I should start running a Cherry Berry in this fight because my Vespiquen gets paralyzed, fails to attack multiple times. I haven't learned Heal Order by this point, and yeah, I actually lose here, so I could have blacked out here. I thought about it for a brief moment, but in the end I decided to reset. Even though this takes me back to before Commander Mars, it's not that much of the game that I have to make it through. One quick repeat battle, then I can dodge all the trainers and fight this double battle again. I do forget the Cherry Berry. Oops. Anyways, I take out the Pachirisu, and after that the bug types are easy to mop up with Power Gem. Normally in the forest I spend a lot of time doing additional training because Cheryl heals you after every battle, but today I'm only going to fight the mandatory trainers and then proceed into Eterna City. Quick note here, since Cheryl is healing you after every battle, you don't actually need to visit the Eterna City Pokemon Center before heading to the gym, because you'll already be full healed. That is, as long as you didn't train against the Fishers on the prior route. Against the grass types here, we can see that Bug Bite and Gust have perfect coverage. If I'm facing a mono grass type like Cherubi, I can use Bug Bite for super effective damage, but when I'm facing a grass poison type, Gust is the better choice. With all the gym trainers finished off, now let's face the second gym leader, Gardenia. Her lead is Turtwig, and it loves setting up Reflect, so I'm really hoping that Bug Bite is going to one-shot the mono grass type. And in this case, it gets the job done. Okay, that's perfect because Cherim, a mono grass type, is also going to take massive damage from Bug Bite. I once again get the one-shot. Last is Roserade. I think even though Gust does more damage here, Bug Bite turn 1 would have been the better choice to burn its berry. I didn't go for this. That allows Gardenia to use a potion once Roserade hits red health, and this lets the battle last a little bit longer, but in the end she has nothing that she can do against my bug flying type. Okay, so the prize for this battle is the TM for Grass Knot, and I really wish that Vespiquen could learn this move, because if you just take a quick look through its entire learn set, what is it going to do against steel types, specifically Byron's team? When I sat down to film this run, that was the first thing that I thought of, and I still don't have an answer. We're going to see what happens once I get there. Commander Jupiter is even easier than Mars was because I have super effective damage against her Zubat and then neutral damage for the Skuntank, but it really can't do much damage to me. After that, with Cut, I can head back to the forest and explore the old chateau. While I was doing this, I was thinking to myself, I wonder where you can find the plate that boosts the power of bug type moves. And I kid you not, I was literally just spamming A after picking up this ether, and I found the insect plate as a hidden item over here. It's really nice when I don't have to do research. Inside the building, I grab a rare candy, and then I head up the stairs to the upper floor where I pick up the TM for Substitute. I think this is going to be fairly useful for Vespiquen, but I'm going to run into some moveset constraints as the playthrough progresses, because I believe this thing has a lot of really good moves that I'm not really sure which one is going to be best for it to have. For now, I'm going to hold off on teaching this until I know that it's absolutely necessary. South of the city, I explore Wayward Cave to pick up an additional rare candy, as well as grabbing this one before passing through Mount Coronet towards Hearthome City. Once arriving, I grab the Shellbell, which can be fantastic with a stall-oriented Pokemon, which Vespiquen definitely is. Alright, so now time to head into the gym and face some ghosts. I get caught by one of the trainers going through the little maze area, and this is the perfect opportunity for me to show you that Vespiquen does not stack up against these Pokemon well. Bug Bite is resisted by both the Ghost and Poison type, leaving it with 27 effective power, and Gust and Power Gem are both neutral. However, unlike Generation 1, 2, and 3 where these moves would be physical, now they're special, and the Ghosts have higher special defense. This random trainer takes me down from green health all the way into the orange before I defeat him. That is not making me confident for Fantina, who's next. Her first Pokemon is, it's Dusclops, right? It's totally Dusclops. This thing is fairly defensive, and it's surviving 2 hits from Power Gem, and then she uses a healing item, giving it more time, and eventually it uses Will-O-Wisp, burning me. So now Bug Bite's power is even worse. Haunter comes in next, and I'm holding a Chesto Berry specifically for this thing's Hypnosis. Of course, it's not going for it because I have a burn. That's kind of a nice side effect of this status condition. I am having to use Heal Order, though, to restore my health, and it's happening far too frequently. Plus, then the Miss Magius starts to lower my special defense with Shadow Ball. Since this video is bug themed, I think it's important for me to note the fact that my special defense modifier is showing up in the correct place, but the special attack label is responding as if it's in that slot. So whoops, this is a programming error. I tried to sort it out during this battle, and I did sort of fix things, but not completely. I'll mention why later. With my special defense lowered, Heal Order is just not enough, and Vespiquen gets its second reset. I contemplated for a moment teaching Substitute, but decided against it and tried the battle again. I figured maybe, just maybe, I could get by her first Pokemon without being burned. In this case, I do. Moving on to the Haunter, it goes for Hypnosis, which I perfectly counter with my Chesto Berry, knocking it out. I've made it to the Miss Magius with green health and no status condition. It goes for Shadow Ball, which isn't doing very much, but neither is Power Gem, and as it continues to attack, it once again lowers my special defense, this time twice, so I'm again taking too much damage, and because Fantina has potions, she's able to heal and outlast me. In the third fight against her, I'm given a perfect piece of information, which is the Duskull just using Will-O-Wisp early on into the battle. What I need here is Substitute. By using this move, I can block all of the status conditions incurred by Will-O-Wisp, Hypnosis, and Confuse Ray. Also, secondary effects from moves like Shadow Ball and Psybeam won't be able to affect me, and I don't think her Pokemon are going to be knocking out my Substitute with a single hit. Honestly, it's probably going to survive multiple attacks from the Duskull and Haunter, and probably 2 from the Miss Magius. That said, I had to decide on which move to give up. Long term, term, it makes sense to hold on to Power Gem. I will explain why in a little bit. I'm also going to hold on to Gust for the next gym leader, Maylene, and Heal Order pairs very well with Substitute, so Bug Bite has to go. Okay, so Substitute makes Vespiquen feel so dominant in this battle. I can just set it up against the Duskull, heal, and then knock it out because it's very defensive, and I still have my sub in place by the time Haunter comes out. Now the AI doesn't know about Substitute, so it just spams status condition moves until I knock her second Pokemon out and move on to the Mismagius. I can use Heal Order while my Substitute does break. I can just set it up again, and then eventually over time I take the Mismagius out. Unlike Fire Red, where you can only learn Substitute once, I can rebuy this TM from the game corner later on, so if and when I teach a move over it, it won't be permanent. Fantina's badge gives me access to Super Repels in the mart. By the way, I've found that buying 11 in Orberg City generally gets me all the way here, where I can buy the next Repels and then continue with the playthrough, never running into wild Pokemon. Outside the city, I have to face Barry. This is a bit of an interesting fight. I can set up Substitute against the Staravia. It loves to spam Double Team, and while this is annoying, it's not terrible because I can spam Power Gem enough to knock it out. Next, Monferno comes in, and I still have Gust so I can manage it because it's a fighting type. Beyond that, both Buizel and Roselia are easy to knock out, so simple fight, let's move on. In Solaceon Town, I make the first choice to skip the Defog TM. While I won't have a move that can bypass accuracy checks for the foggy area, I'm just going to try it today with my accuracy lowered and see how it goes. After all, if I can skip the ruins, it's going to save a lot of time. North of the town, I pick up the rare candy, and then I head out onto the rainy route where I have to face Ace Trainer Dennis. I've got to get art for this guy at some point. Also, I do have to mention the fact that Gligar's color scheme in Pokemon Platinum, it feels really wrong. It's almost like they were trying to retcon it and make it purple so that it lines up better with the color scheme of Gliscor. Game Freak, maybe you should just design Pokemon so that they look like their prior evolutions. And I am looking at you, Rhyperior. What is this abomination of a color scheme? It is just terrible when put alongside Rhydon and Rhyhorn. The lack of color congruency here really does bother me. Anyways, hopefully it doesn't bother you. In Veilstone City, usually there's a lot to do, but today there isn't. I just head straight for the gym and take on Maylene. I got a little bit jump scared here because I realized the Meditite and Machoke both have Rock Tomb. That's bad. I can't set up my Substitute against her first Pokemon, which means I just need to knock it out. Gust is able to one-hit, but the Machoke is stronger and it's going to survive. That lets it use Rock Tomb, leaving Vespiquen with only 28 hit points for the Lucario. Now it does not have good moves against me. Drain Punch and Force Palm are both resisted, and Bone Rush is not effective. That leaves it with only Metal Claw, and I made a mistake here trying to set up Substitute. The Lucario is obviously faster, so it attacks first. I don't have enough health left over, and because of that, I get a loss. That fight did teach me a lot though. I just need to attack the Meditite right away, and sometimes it survives. That's a really unfortunate damage range. Because of that, I only have 5 hit points left over for the Machoke, and this time it just knocks me out. I don't even make it to the Lucario. Okay, so should I use rare candies? I have a total of 4 right now. I could use 3 to go over a damage rounding threshold to level 38, but I don't think that that's the best idea. Instead, let's face Maylene again and see if I can get the damage range on the Meditite. This time I do, knocking it out in a single hit. Next is Machoke. My speed modifier is also not showing up in the right location. By the way, I'm drawing attention to this so that no one comments about it, because I already know, don't worry, it's been fixed. Okay, getting back to the fight, because I was able to knock out the Meditite right away, I have enough health to set up my Substitute against the Lucario now. Since Metal Claw isn't doing enough damage to knock it out, that means I can use Heal Order, get back to green health, and then slowly chip away at her ace Pokemon. As the Lucario gets lower in health, I decided not to re-establish my Substitute, and instead I just attack, knocking it out. Okay, so honestly, Vespiquen is doing quite well. I am impressed with its playthrough so far. While it has had some resets, I would say all of them are related to player error, not to it as a Pokemon. But with 4 badges, this is where things in Platinum get really difficult, especially for a bug flying type. Coming up next is Crasher Wake, who I think is the best gym leader in the game, and following him is Byron, who obviously Vespiquen doesn't pair up well against. After that, I'm technically weak to Candace and Volkner. I'm just hoping that rare candies are going to get me through them. But beyond that, Bertha has the potential to be the second Byron. I think her Pokemon have rock coverage moves, probably Stone Edge, which is going to hit really hard. Okay, by the way, while I'm heading to Pastoria City, I'm just going to draw your attention to this battle footage here against Collector Douglas, who has the 3 evolutions. While recording this portion of the narration, I was staring at the back sprite of Vespiquen, and I noticed that there is a sad face on it. These little circles look like eyes, and this semicircle looks like the mouth. Also, the wings kind of look like they're the eyeballs bulging out. I am personally never going to be able to unsee this, and I'm not sorry if you can't either. Before arriving in the hotel, I pick up a PP up. I'm mentioning this one specifically because I've been collecting them up until now in the run. I think that Vespiquen might start to have PP problems, especially when it's facing someone like Byron, who I expect to only be dealing chip damage to. While attack order does have 15 PP, I want to raise this as much as possible. On the beach, I make sure to pick up 2 heart scales, this one, and then I head into Pastoria City. This opens up a lot of stuff for me. Number 1, I can go into the Great Marsh, grabbing a rare candy, and then just past the city, I can collect an elixir as well as another rare candy. I spend one of my heart scales because I want to get defend order as soon as possible. It raises both of Vespiquen's defensive stats at the same time. I figure in combination with heal order, this is going to be fantastic, making me last longer even if I'm under leveled. So for now, I'm going to say goodbye to Substitute. The rival outside of the gym is next, and this fight is not as easy as the previous one was. Without Gust, I have to 3-hit the Monferno, and it lowered my defense with Leer. Because of this, I have to 3-hit it using Power Gem, and so this isn't going to end up in a loss for me because his final 2 Pokemon are simple, but this does leave me worried about the Infernape that's to come. Also, after this battle, I figured that I don't want to be going back to the Pokemon Center all the time when I'm healing, so I'm just going to go to the mart and buy some potions. Inside the gym, I fight some optional trainers, leveling up to 40 before Crash or Wake. As I said before, this is usually one of the hardest battles in the entire run, but Power Gem feels like it was invented just to counter Gyarados. As a rock-type move, it's super effective, plus its damage is not affected by Intimidate, although attack order is going to be dealing less damage, which is a bit frustrating. To set up for success in this battle, I'm going to max out my defensive stats with Defend Order. While doing this, the Gyarados gets a critical hit, which does massive damage. I thought that was a loss, but Vespiquen survives on 1 hit point, heals with heal order, and continues. After being fully set up and using Power Gem, I learned something about the Generation 4 AI. When it sees that it has a Pokemon that resists this move, it switches in, tanking the damage with Quagsire. Normally in these solo challenges, I am playing around how bad the AI is, but in this case, that was a really nice play. Instead of continuing to fight this thing with Power Gem, which it resists, I use attack order. It does more damage, even though I was intimidated. After that Floatzel comes out, it has Ice Fang, which is super effective. It can also cause a freeze or a flinch, but I'm not too worried about that since it's dealing so little damage. I managed to knock his ace out, Gyarados comes back in, and of course Power Gem knocks it out. So Vespiquen makes it by Crash or Wake on its first attempt. It's honestly doing really well. A lot of people say that the bug type had a major glow up in Generation 5. This is largely because of the introduction of the move Quiver Dance, which raises the user's special attack, special defense, and speed. Very important Pokemon like Venomoth get access to this move, so maybe now the Dark Fire type will be usable. We're still quite a ways away from getting into Generation 5 on the channel, but that said, I think the bug type did get major improvements in Generation 4, and we can really see that here with Vespiquen. Or maybe it's just the fact that this thing gets so many signature moves, which really lets it stand apart. I think it is clear to me that Game Freak was at least trying to make the bug types a little bit more relevant and unique. Alright, so how is my choice to skip the Defog TM gonna play out for me? And honestly, the answer is pretty well. There are some annoying battles here where I miss a little bit, but in the end, it's not gonna be something that slows Vespiquen down. I think the reason to get the Defog TM is if any of these random trainers are going to be extremely challenging for you to defeat. So for example, Ace Trainer Alyssa has an Apom, Girafarig, and Grotle. I don't think she's ever really going to be a problem, although the Apom does have Shockwave, and I might have to watch out for that. There is also the double battle that caused me many problems in my first playthrough of Platinum, but I've learned how to dodge them, so I don't think they're going to catch me in the future. Once arriving in Celestic Town, I'm going to admit that while doing this playthrough, I got a little bit distracted. I was watching a podcast at the time, and I glanced over at my secondary monitor when going up against Cyrus, because I believed that he was not going to be a challenge. After all, Bug-type moves are super effective against Dark-type Pokemon, and Power Gem is super effective against every single Pokemon on his team. So what could possibly go wrong? Right? His first Pokemon is Sneasel. I go for attack order, knocking it out in 1 hit. Luckily it missed with Screech, so I still have full defense for the following Golbat. It's faster than Vespiquen, moving first with Air Cutter, but it just misses, and then I take it down to orange health. With its next attack, it goes for another air cutter, which doesn't do very much, about a quarter, and then I knock it out. Alright, this is going really well. Nothing's gonna go wrong. Murkrow then comes in. It's fast, but that's fine. It uses Drill Peck, which does a decent amount of damage, but not enough to KO. I use Power Gem because I figured this would be enough damage. After all, it's pretty frail, but it hangs on with red health, so attack order was the right choice there. And that's really bad for me because this means it gets another Drill Peck, and yeah, it does massive damage. So I'm really kicking myself for not paying attention. If I had just used attack order, I would have won. Well, Vespiquen actually survives on 2 hit points and wins anyways, and I got a nice little hit of adrenaline. The next time I face Cyrus, I'm gonna have to pay attention. Before going to Canalave City, I grab a rare candy south of Veilstone City, and I also pick up one in the northern part of Floroma Meadow. I'm stockpiling these now because Byron is coming up, and I think I'm gonna need to use all 10 before him. I will get to test Vespiquen out against the Steelix trainers in his gym, but before that I have to face the rival on the bridge. I almost always forget that this fight occurs here and just barely pull myself back in time to save. Luckily I did today because the first fight does not go particularly well. Once again, I'm setting up my defenses while the Staraptor spams double team. This means I miss a lot of attacks before I finally take it out. Next is Infernape, and I'm only doing about a quarter. It's gonna take 4 hits to knock out. That said, with my defenses maxed, I figured that I could just use Heal Order here as it deals some damage with Flame Wheel, but no, it gets a critical hit and Vespiquen goes down. This is the downside whenever you're running a stall set on a Pokemon, but I think for Vespiquen it is required because Byron is coming up, and I honestly don't think I have a chance to beat him if I was just running all offensive moves. When he doesn't get critical hits, he's not a challenge, so the rival's defeated. Okay, so inside the gym, the first trainer has a Steelix, and this is my litmus test for how I'm gonna do against Byron. Do note, this Steelix's moveset is complete trash: Iron Tail, Taunt, Torment, and Screech, so this lets me experiment and see how much attack order is doing, and the answer is actually a lot more than I was expecting. I figured that I was gonna run out of PP before defeating Byron's whole team, but after this battle, I think I might be able to do it. That is until I get further into the gym, because then there's a trainer who has 2 Steelix, and these ones are a lot better than the first one. They both have Rock Slide and Sandstorm, and with rock type moves, Screech is incredibly scary. Also, I just realized Sandstorm is a rock type move. Why isn't Sandstorm a ground type move? It's sand that's going through the air, and I assume it causes erosion. Anyways, needless to say, Vespiquen does not stand a chance here. If I set up with Defend Order, it doesn't really matter because Screech lowers my defense more quickly. If I can't defeat this trainer, I don't stand a chance against Byron, so let's go and do some training. On the route west of Pastoria City, there are so many trainers that I regularly do not fight, so I'll battle all of them. This brings Vespiquen up to level 48, and then south of Veilstone City, I fight some more trainers getting to level 50. Since this is a first playthrough and I have no idea what challenges await me, I also went back to the game corner and grabbed 2 more substitute TMs. It's really nice that this move only costs 2,000 coins. Okay, so it's time to come back for Black Belt David, the double Steelix man, and for this one, I'm going to use 10 rare candies going up from level 50 to 60. I once again try to set up Defend Order, but this is objectively the wrong choice. I should be using Attack Order right away. The more time I try to set up defenses, the longer they have to establish Sandstorm and use Screech. This just exposes me to absolutely massive rock slides. Well, I would assume that, but then for some reason, the Steelixes just keep going for Sandstorm and Screech. They actually don't attack me with Rock Slide, and I defeat him. I genuinely have no idea what happened there, but I'll take it. There's only one more trainer before Byron, and I have to say, with a bug-type move, I can one-shot the Bronzor line, which is really satisfying. This battle is normally such a nuisance. With her out of the way, it's now time for Byron. At the start of the battle, I was expecting the Magneton to go from Metal Sound to harshly lower my special defense, but it doesn't do this because the AI sees that it can do a lot of damage with super effective Thunderbolt. That's really good for Vespiquen because it can establish Defend Orders, heal up with Heal Order, and then knock the Magneton out using Attack Order. By the way, I just want to say thanks to Vespiquen for making some truly awesome battle narration sentences where I say order like 5 times. When I attack with Attack Order, I was surprised how much damage it does, more than half. As a result, I'm able to take out the Magneton in only 2 hits. Okay, what's he gonna send in next? And the answer is Bastiodon. This thing is both a rock type and it knows Stone Edge. I am so glad that the rock type does not resist the bug type. I only set it to +2 because I thought that Thunderbolt paralyzing me would probably cause a loss. I didn't want to spend more time in battle against the Magneton if I could prevent it. But I'm second guessing that a little bit now as the Bastiodon goes for Stone Edge. However, with my defenses set up, it's really not doing that much, so barring a critical hit, I think I might be able to do do this. Attack order does about a quarter, which is more than I was expecting. Then my next hit gets a crit, dealing massive damage. And a Bastiodon chooses Metal Burst, which I didn't know how it works, but it deals 1.5 times the damage that the last attack dealt. So it deals massive damage because I just got a critical hit. But Vespiquen hangs on, and I'm able to use Heal Order. Okay, this fight is not nearly as hard as I thought it was going to be. Byron heals, I'm able to chip away at the Bastiodon and eventually knock it out. Steelix is last, and that's for a reason, because it does not have a rock type move. So it turns out that the guy in the gym was actually more difficult than Byron himself. Maybe, just maybe, Black Belt Derek is earning himself a piece of art. Okay, so now I want to talk about Vespiquen's type coverage, which is quite frankly awful. When I plan out these runs, I like to figure out the type coverage that I'm going to have on my final set. I knew that I'd be building my set around a bug type move, attack order, and with rock type moves, I can hit most things for neutral damage, but there are some specific flaws with this. Of course, fighting types, poison types, and steel types. We just got through the steel type gym leader, so that one's not really a threat anymore, but coming up next, I have to face Saturn's Toxicroak. One way to counter this fighting type specifically would be to teach Aerial Ace in the place of attack order and then use the move reminder to get the bug type move back later on. If you're wondering why I didn't do that here, it's honestly I just didn't think it was worth it. Whenever I teach my Pokemon a new move, it costs time, and having to go to the move reminder, go through all the dialogue, teach the move, and then learn attack order back in its place later on with the move reminder again would bleed a lot. This fight ends up being very close, but in the end Vespiquen pulls through. Commander Mars is much less of an issue. After that I pass through Mount Coronet, and here I'm going to start collecting more rare candies. There are 7 more that I have access to before Victory Road, and 3 inside of that location. So that is 10 more available for the rest of the playthrough. Now it's time for Candace. Her first Pokemon is Sneasel. It knows Slash and Aerial Ace. I figured I could take one turn here to set up Defend Order because it's not going to do much damage. I was right, I take very little, about a fifth before I knock it out and move on to her Frostlass. It's nice she sent this in second because the Bombasnow was not able to set up Snow Warning, so Snowcloak isn't doing anything. That said, the Ghost type does have Blizzard, which does massive damage, but not enough to two-shot, and because of the damage range from Power Gem, I knock her Ace out. This leaves me with low health for the Abomasnow, but it's so slow that I can just use Heal Order to recover health and then Attack Order to knock it out on the next turn. Only Piloswine remains. I'm taking chip damage from Snow Warning. Also, I'm not able to one-hit, so I take even more into the red, but that's not enough for her to salvage the battle. Vespiquen wins. As I head into the Team Galactic warehouse, I want to mention Sludge Bomb, one of Vespiquen's coverage moves. Honestly, it's nice that they provide this to the player before the post-game, unlike in Fire Red, but unlike those games, it's not going to be very useful, at least for Vespiquen, because I don't see it solving any problems. With Bug-type moves, I'm already hitting Grass-type Pokemon for super effective damage, and I am not a Poison type, so it won't get the same type attack bonus. It really does feel like the design of Vespiquen is sort of forcing players just to use its signature moves, which honestly I'm okay with. I'm genuinely really enjoying this playthrough because I think instinctually I like to play defensive. And that's what Vespiquen is designed to do. Okay, so I have to face Cyrus. This time though, I have the experience from last time, which greatly improves my odds. I can set up on the Sneasel for longer, ensuring that Pokemon like the Honchkrow do not do massive damage with Drill Peck. But first I have to get there because he has a Crobat, and there is a lot of back and forth here, me using Heal Order, trying to last and get one more hit in to knock it out. Eventually, I manage it and move on to the Honchkrow. Now, like Combee, Murkrow loses speed when it evolves, so I'm faster than the fully evolved Pokemon, and because of that, Attack Order can just one-shot. The battle against Saturn took me a little bit off guard. While the Golbat isn't a problem, or the Bronzong, the Toxicroak is a problem because Poison Jab poisons. The status condition almost knocks me out, with Vespiquen surviving on 7 hit points. The double battle against the two commanders at the top of Mount Coronet ends up being a little bit sketchy once again because of poison. The one flaw in Heal Order is the fact that it does not heal status conditions, so I have to rely on either held items for that or a move like Rest. And it's not really good in Generation 4 because the TM for it is obtained in the game corner and it costs a lot of coins. To date, I don't think I've used it once in a Generation 4 challenge. Next is the Distortion World and the battle against Cyrus, which is typically the most difficult battle in Pokemon Platinum. I thought the combination between Power Gem, Defend Order, and Heal Order would be enough for me to deal with him, so I'm going to go into the fight without using rare candies. Against the Houndoom, I have a choice to make: set up with Defense Order or Attack. The former could make the rest of the battle easier, but Flamethrower is going to do a lot of damage and it can use Will-O-Wisp. I wanted to minimize the number of turns that I was in battle so that I can prevent status conditions, so I attack right away. Houndoom is faster by 4 speed, so it hits a Flamethrower before going down to Attack Order. Honchkrow's next. I'm still faster, so I can one-shot it again, and then he sends in Crobat. And here, everything falls apart at once. Air Slash gets a critical hit, it also causes a flinch, and Vespiquen isn't faster, so that's that. In the next fight, things start off worse because the Houndoom immediately burns me with Will-O-Wisp. I tried setting up following that, but it's just not going to work, so that's another reset. In the next battle, I knock the Houndoom out right away and then try to set up against the Honchkrow. This is allowing it to use Drill Peck, but that doesn't matter because it's not doing enough damage. I get all the way to +5 defenses. By the way, my modifiers are now in the correct place, so yay, I fixed that. Anyways, I knock the Honchkrow out, move on to the Crobat, and then it poisons me with Toxic. Once again, this status condition is the undoing of Vespiquen. Honestly, it's kind of depressing because the bees in our real world are having so many problems due to toxins and so many other environmental factors. I'm of course no expert on it, but I know they're incredibly important little creatures and they're also incredibly cute. They have the tiniest little fuzzy legs. If you have spare time or resources, maybe look into how you can support the bees. And for anyone who's about to comment that this shouldn't be a part of a Pokemon video, you do know that this series is about humans coexisting peacefully with the natural world. I've always personally felt very strongly about this sort of thing, and I would definitely feel like I had missed something if I didn't mention it during this video. Getting back to Cyrus, I decided to use all my rare candies going up to level 73, but it turns out this isn't even enough. Poison still stops me. Finally, I realized that the Pecha Berry is the correct choice here so that I can heal the status condition when the Crobat inflicts it, and then two-shot. From there, I knock out the Gyarados and move on to the Weavile. It hits with Ice Punch, which causes a freeze, but I defrost right away, go down to red health, and then knock out Cyrus's ace. Okay, Volkner's next. He's an electric type specialist, but I'm level 73, so I don't expect him to be an issue. Jolteon's first. I set up Defend Order once, and then I knock it out. Next is Raichu. Easily gets one shot. Luxray does survive and do a bit of damage, but it's not enough. And Electivire does have a cool intro animation, but it doesn't have as much bulk as Luxray, which never really makes sense to me. This thing looks like it would take a lot of damage. Anyways, one hit is all it takes, and Vespiquen is victorious. With all 8 badges, now I can head to Victory Road. Okay, mandatory Blissey meme here. Also, while that's happening, I grab 2 more rare candies in Victory Road and defeat all the trainers, bringing Vespiquen up to level 77. I grabbed 1 rare candy before Victory Road, so I have 3 in total now, which I could use to go to level 80 before battling the rival, but I don't think that's necessary. His first Pokemon is Staraptor, and while it does have a flying type move, setting up Defend Order allows me to shrug off damage like it's nothing. Also, this one does not have Double Team, so it's never going to spam evasion boosting moves and get really annoying. I set up my defenses to +6. Intimidate is annoying for my attack order, but for Power Gem it doesn't matter, so I one-shot the Staraptor. After that, I continue using the Rock-type move against Infernape, and I 2-hit. So it ends up not being a problem. Well, there still is Flints, but like, Flint is Flint. Floatzel falls, Heracross falls, Snorlax falls, and Roserade is irrelevant. With this battle out of the way, I am ready for the Elite Four. Aaron is first, and his Vespiquen's moveset is exactly the same as mine's. Mine's at a much higher level, and his Pokemon are really weak to Rock-type moves, so I can one-shot the Yanmega and the Vespiquen. The Drapion takes massive damage from Attack Order because it's a Dark-type. It lost the Bug-type when it evolved, and from there he only has 2 Pokemon left, which are not a threat to me. With him out of the way though, I now have to face Bertha. And I'm a bit worried for this fight because I assume her ground types will have Rock-type moves. As soon as the battle started, I realized that things are not actually as bad as I thought they were. The Whiscash has Sandstorm, the Gliscor has all the Fangs, the Hippowdon has Stone Edge, but that's her 3rd Pokemon. After that, the Golem does not in fact have a Rock-type move, which is kind of a letdown. It does have Thunder Punch, but of course its special attack is terrible. Although her Rhyperior does have Rock Wrecker, which is its signature move. I had no idea this move existed for the longest time, and I'm sure some of you will be in the same situation, so it's just Rock-type Hyper Hyper Beam. So how is Bertha gonna go? Well, the strategy here is very simple. Since the Whiscash is pretty bad, I can just set up Defend Order on it to get to +6. After that, I can then start to sweep her team. By the way, I have noticed during this whole video that my stats are not actually recalculating whenever I use a modifier, so they're just staying at their original values and not factoring in the stat changes. With full setup, I knock out the Whiscash, move on to the Golem, which I knock out over 2 turns, and then she sends in her Rhyperior. Okay, so how much is Rockwrecker going to do? Well, Attack Order gets a critical hit and knocks it out in 1 turn, so we will never know. After that, I manage the Gliscor as well as the Hippowdon, going just under half health before I win. Okay, so Bertha, much easier than I expected. So Vespiquen's just gonna sweep through the rest of the league now, right? It's definitely not gonna struggle against Flint, right? Wrong, because Flareon burns me, and this is not a problem because of my attack. It's a problem because I didn't max out my defend orders against the Houndoom after it set up Sunny Day. If I had maxed out my defenses, I would be healing so much more health every turn with Heal Order, and I would feel a lot more confident about this. Things go back and forth between my Vespiquen and the Magmortar, and eventually I managed to knock it out and move on to the final Infernape. Okay, so the Rivals wasn't a problem, but maybe this one is going to be. Its Flare Blitzes are dealing a lot of damage. I have to go for Heal Order, going back to green health on the first turn in battle. It goes for another Flare Blitz, taking me under half, and my Power Gem does the same to it. Okay, so I think I can survive 1 more hit. Vespiquen does, and with that, Power Gem gets the victory. That fight was way too close. Even though Flint is one of the worst Elite Four members in Generation 4, at least he had a type disadvantage. Vespiquen has a type advantage over Lucian, who's next. So there's no way that this fight's gonna be hard, right? Well, wrong, because the Glade is a fighting type, a psychic fighting type, so Attack Order does neutral damage and it survives, paying back massive damage to Vespiquen. I should have taken my time and set up on the Mr. Mime, because Espeon and Alakazam both outspeed Vespiquen, so I have a loss here. A very painful loss, I will admit. Things are just much more simple if I take my time, set up with Defend Order, and then sweep his team. While I do take occasional hits, they don't do enough damage, and Vespiquen pulls through. With Lucian defeated, there's only 1 more trainer. Before her, I'm going to use my final 3 rare candies to boost Vespiquen up to level 83. I am feeling very confident against Cynthia. Let's do this. The reason I have confidence is because the Spiritomb is really bad offensively, giving me all the time I need to set up with Defend Order and use Heal Order. As I start to knock it out with Attack Order, she eventually switches it out, sending the Lucario in, tanking an Attack Order, which technically makes sense, but it is my best move against the Steel type, so I was just going to continue using it anyway. She continues juggling her Pokemon around, sending in Togekiss. I can use Power Gem to knock it out over 2 turns, and then Milotic comes in. Attack Order gets a critical hit, knocking the Water type out in 1 hit. She sends Lucario back in. Things slow down here for a bit. Eventually it goes down and she sends in Garchomp. Attack Order does more than half. It eats its Citrus Berry, so it survives my next hit, but its attacks just aren't doing enough because I'm so over leveled. I clean up the Spiritomb. The Roserade, as I said before, is irrelevant, and Vespiquen clocks in with its time of 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 42 seconds, with 13 resets at level 83, with a game time of 8 hours and 39 minutes. Okay, before we rank Vespiquen, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who supports me financially on YouTube or through Patreon. You let me funnel all of my time into playing games over and over and over again with every Pokemon, so thank you so much, I really love it. Okay, getting back to Vespiquen's results, this thing did really well. I mentioned in my previous Platinum video with Shiny Machamp that I recently got a new CPU, which is likely causing Pokemon Platinum to run slightly faster. I think this technological factor does slightly favor Vespiquen's results, especially when put in context of all the other results I've gotten to this point. However, I am becoming better as a player in Pokemon Platinum, and I have started to skip some things like the Solaceon Ruins, which I would have done with all the other Pokemon. With its time of 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 42 seconds, it gets a spot just behind Machamp in the A tier. It was faster than Heatran, as well as Staraptor. As a fan of the bug type, this makes me very happy. I can't wait to play more of them in the game. I think other ones like Kricketot are going to do very poorly. That said, before that, there are still 4 types that I have not used: Poison, Rock, Ice, and Dark, so expect runs with Pokemon of those types coming up in the near future. So that's Vespiquen in Pokemon Platinum. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.